name is Michealeen Doucleff, and I'm the author of Hunt, Gather, Parent, a New York Times best-selling book. I'm also a global health correspondent at National Public Radio, and I have a PhD in chemistry. So I started looking for other ways to raise children when my own daughter, Rosy, was about 2.5 years old. At that point, she started to have a lot of tantrums and emotional outbursts. And my husband and I didn't really know what to do with her. I read a bunch of books and blogs, and everything I tried really made things worse. Sometimes I would even pick her up and she would just smack me across the face. Around the same time, National Public Radio sent me down to the Yucatan, to a little tiny Maya village for a different story. But when I was there, the moms just completely blew me away. The way they parented was so different than anything I had ever seen or the way that I was parented. They were so calm and composed and relaxed. There was no yelling, screaming, arguing, and yet the kids were incredible. They were kind and generous and super, super helpful. And so when I got back from this trip, I really started to wonder, is there a better way to do things? And if so, I want to learn about it. So the Western approach to parenting is super strange and bizarre. We do about 50 things that you really can't find anywhere else in the world or throughout human history. Some of the craziest things are, well, number one, we argue with children. We argue with children a lot. And nowhere else in the world do parents argue, negotiate, and bicker with children. They just don't. They make statements and they walk away. They make statements and that's just it. There isn't this back and forth. The other crazy thing that we do is we praise children all the time in really over the top praise for tiny little tasks. So Rosy will put, my daughter Rosy will put a stamp on an envelope and we'll be like, oh my gosh, what an amazing helper you are to put this stamp on the envelope. You just don't see this anywhere else in the world. And yet kids grow up with all the things we want praise to do. They're motivated, they have great self-esteem, they're confident. And so we really don't need to be praising kids as much as we do. If a little child had a tantrum, like my daughter Rosy, who was 3 when we were traveling, first of all, they would become incredibly calm. Their emotions would slow down, their expressions would soften, their voice would become very low, and then they would come near the child very gently, easily, and they wouldn't say very much. They would kind of just stand there and be with the child, maybe put their hand on the child, maybe hold their hand out, and if they needed to, they would say something very soft, very gentle, but they brought the energy way, way down. And what this does is it allows the child to find this calm response in themselves. It allows the child to learn to settle themselves down. So there's this idea in Western culture that children like to test boundaries. We also say push buttons or manipulate us. But the truth is that this statement is completely false. There's no scientific data or research backing up this idea. It is essentially a folk tale that we tell ourselves about children. And the problem with it is that it makes us kind of angry at children, right? Nobody likes to have boundaries tested or be manipulated. And so we come at children with kind of an adversarial response to their behavior because we think they're being kind of mean. They have these nefarious motivations. In many parts of the world, parents do not believe this idea at all about kids. They don't believe they're testing boundaries or pushing buttons or manipulating us. Instead, they think of children's motivations as actually quite good. They think that children want to do the right thing, they love us and they want to be good kids, but they just don't know how yet. So in this way, many parents, and this was especially common up in the Arctic with the Inuit, think that Children are just these illogical, irrational creatures who don't have understanding yet. And so it's your job as a parent to teach them understanding. And you do that by being calm and compassionate and showing empathy towards them. And so this point of view actually makes you come and respond to the children in a way that's kind and empathetic, instead of this very adversarial way that brings conflict. So one of the kind of crazy things that we do in Western culture is that we exclude little kids from our day-to-day lives, from chores around the house, like doing the laundry or doing the dishes, because we think that they don't know how to do them. So for instance, if you're in the kitchen getting dinner ready and a little 2-3-year-old comes in, you don't say, hey, come join me, come help me. You often would shoo them off, go and play, right? But what this does over time is it tells the child that doing dishes, doing laundry, helping around the house, cooking meals isn't for them, that it's their job to go and play. So in many, many cultures around the world, from the moment a child can walk, the child is asked to come help, and they're given little tiny tasks. So for instance, if you're cleaning up the living room, you can hand a little toddler a book and say, go put this on the bookshelf. And over time, what happens is that the little tasks get bigger and the child learns how to do the big tasks, but they also learn how to cooperate with you and work together with the family as a team. So I would say that we need to shift our perspective and our way of thinking about kids, that no matter their skill level, their age, they should be involved with anything that you want them to do later on as they get older. Ask them to come over and then give them very small tasks to do so that they can feel like they're contributing. So a huge way to motivate children is to, first of all, get them involved in your life. Welcome them into your life. Get them involved with making dinner, get them involved with cleaning and the laundry. They want to be in your life and they want to help. And then, once they're there, accept what they do. So for instance, if I'm in the kitchen making dinner and I ask her, hey, come Rosy, come help me with dinner. And then I give her a really small task to do. Cut this zucchini. Maybe she doesn't cut them quite right. Instead of like throwing the zucchini out that she's cut or being like, that's not right, this is how you do it, and kind of taking over the task, if I accept what she's done, maybe give her a little bit guidance, like, oh, maybe can you make him a little bit smaller? Maybe not. But if I accept her contribution, her motivation skyrockets and she wants to help more. It's when we don't accept what they're doing, we reject it, or we try to change it too much and come in and give them a lecture about it. That's when you erode their motivation. So the key things to motivating kids is helping them feel competent by accepting their contribution, helping them feel connected to you by being involved in the tasks you are doing and in your world, and then finally, making sure they feel like they have a choice in it. They're not forced to do it. It is optional, it is voluntary. So there's this idea in Western culture that children should be raised by the mom and the dad, and that's like the ideal situation. But if you look around across the world and throughout human history, that is not how it's gone down. There's good scientific evidence to show that children are designed to be raised by about 4, 5, even 6 different people. So this includes like grandparents, aunts, uncles, older siblings, cousins, neighbors, friends, even paid help. That the reason why our species, Homo sapiens, are still on Earth is because parents have come together and raised children cooperatively as a team. So there's a reason why we're all so exhausted at the end of a weekend. It's because in Western culture, the mom and the dad are doing the job of what 5, 6 people are supposed to be doing. The families I met and that you'll meet in Hunt Gather Parent taught me so very much. But I have to say that there's one or two things that really stick out. Number one, they showed me that I needed to stop bossing around my child. I didn't really realize that I was being bossy until I saw how unbossy all these other parents are. So I actually counted how many commands or comments parents made to children over the course of like an hour, and it was like 1, 2, even 3 comments per hour. And I tried this with myself, and I counted how many comments I was making to my daughter Rosy, and it was like 60 to 100 comments an hour. And so one of the best things I've done for our relationship, me and Rosy's relationship, is to limit myself to 3 commands per hour. And I recommend you trying it in any situation, especially where there's conflict or tension or arguing. Get out your watch, get out your phone, and try to give your child just 3 commands over the course of 1 hour and see what happens.